I built the backbone of this company with bleeding fingers and a folding chair from Staples. And he said, "This is for my best child," while handing it to Kendra like he was bequeathing a yacht. That's what ran through my head while my father signed the company, my company, over to her with a flourish, like he was God signing the seventh day into law. I sat there in the corner of the boardroom, under the flickering LED light he always said he'd get fixed. Just watching. Didn't say a word, didn't raise my voice, didn't even blink when the attorney slid the final documents toward him and said, "This will officially transfer ownership of all executive assets and voting control." He didn't look at me once. Not once. 20 years. 2 decades of patching back-end code at 3 a.m., rebuilding infrastructure after some hotshot CTO's brilliant shortcut fried the client servers, writing the contracts that saved our asses during the healthcare compliance audit, and I got treated like a ghost who wandered in from IT. Kendra stood up in heels she couldn't walk in, smiling like a toothpaste commercial. Her slideshow, bless it, looked like it was built in PowerPoint 2003 and plagiarized from a TED Talk about unlocking disruption. I watched her stumble through buzzwords like synergistic alignment and platform futurization, while Dad nodded proudly like she'd just discovered fire. She was reading half the damn thing off a note card. I could see it shaking in her hand. By the way, if you're listening this far, take a second to subscribe and like the video. 97% of people don't, and it's a massive help to the team telling these stories. I wish someone had paid attention to the fine print back when I was the one holding everything together. Back in the boardroom, no one even noticed I was packing my bag. The admin assistant smiled awkwardly when I unplugged my charger from the wall. Nobody stopped me. Not even when I stood up, nodded once at the room, and looked right at Kendra. She blinked like I'd spoken in tongues when I said, "Make sure to log out properly." That was it. No speeches, no fireworks, just a calm reminder with the weight of a guillotine underneath it. She laughed. God help me, she actually laughed. "Don't be dramatic," she said, flipping her hair the same way she used to when she'd get out of a speeding ticket. "We've got a dev team now, a real one. You can go do your coding in peace." "Sure, sweetheart. Let's see how far that real team gets you without the part of the architecture that lives in my head and the licenses that live in my name." I walked past Dad on the way out. He was still basking in whatever fantasy he'd built in his mind where Kendra became the Steve Jobs of Dayton, Ohio. I didn't even wait for eye contact. The man had made his choice, drawn the line, and used my bones to build the damn bridge for her to walk across. In the lobby, I looked back one last time. The receptionist had already updated the welcome screen to show "Under New Leadership." The new logo sparkled in corporate beige, and I swear to God it looked like clip art. Fitting. They'd stripped the company down to the paint, slapped glitter on it, and handed it to a woman who once asked me if back end meant butt stuff. I didn't drive home. I didn't cry. I didn't scream into a pillow or get wine drunk in a bath like some cliche. I drove straight to my old apartment, the one I never told them I still kept. Key still worked. Lights still buzzed with the same dying hum. I opened my laptop and stared at the screen for a long, long time. And then I reached for the USB drive I never let out of my sight. Not once in 20 years. The one labeled escrow. I came back after midnight. Parking lot was empty except for that one Camry with a flat tire that had been there since Q2. Building was quiet the way only tech offices get quiet. Like the ghosts of burnout and overtime were sleeping under the carpet. I still had badge access. No one had revoked it yet. Guess they didn't expect a non-essential like me to come back for anything but a monitor and a mug. I didn't go to my desk. I went to the server room. The hum hit me first, the low, vibrating pulse that had been the soundtrack to half my adult life. 20 years of duct tape and genius, of sneaking in on Saturdays to optimize cron jobs so Kendra could show off flawless client demos on Mondays, of pushing code at 2:41 a.m. while my dad texted, "Need the East dashboard working by morning. You're the only one I trust." That aged well. I stood there, hand on the doorknob like I was waiting for something to stop me, but the hallway stayed dead silent. No alarms, no footsteps, no redemption arcs, just me, and the weight of every night I'd chosen this place over, well, everything else. Flashbacks hit like gunshots in my chest. The time I caught a bad memory leak 2 hours before the big healthcare demo. The night our top intern cried because the CTO mocked her syntax. I stayed after midnight fixing her pull request just so it'd make it into production. The lunch breaks I skipped. The anniversaries I missed. The family dinners I was too busy to attend because uptime had to come first. I opened the panel on rack 3, reached into the far corner, past the labeled drives, the taped over ports, the redundant redundancies, pulled out the keychain. There it was. The USB I'd carried since before Kendra knew what front end meant. Black casing, red mark, labeled in Sharpie, PLE, private license escrow. It wasn't connected to anything. That was the point. You don't plug in your nuclear codes until you absolutely have to. I walked over to the safe, hidden behind a fake access panel, and slotted it into the dock. The system whirred, checked the hash, blinked green, then I slid it into the tiny black lockbox, entered the override code, watched it seal shut. Biometric latch closed. Auto encryption kicked in. That was it. A heartbeat later, my licensing demon, a little watchdog script I wrote a decade ago, woke up for the first time in its life. Not because anything was broken, but because control had changed hands. I watched the logs scroll. No fireworks, no deletions, no ransomware. This wasn't theft. This was architecture with a contingency, a fail-safe that knew when I didn't belong anymore. Line after line, revoking inherited keys, ending lease on non-validated instances, checksum divergence detected, escrow trigger confirmed, all legal, all silent, all mine. I stood in that server room and listened. The hum hadn't changed. The lights didn't flicker. The world kept turning, but the company had just lost its spine. On the way out, I stopped by legal. The hallway still smelled like burnt coffee and toner ink. Elaine wasn't at her desk, but that was fine. I wasn't here for a conversation. Just slid the envelope into her inbox with a little sticky note on top, to be opened in the event of system compromise. Inside was a printout, one clause, a single paragraph from an old licensing agreement they'd all forgotten existed. Clause 14A, Section 3, ownership of critical back-end modules deployed through private LLC remains with original author and is licensed conditionally based on executive structure. I built that clause into our first third-party contract. They copied it into our internal architecture agreement without reading it. Never thought it applied to me. It did. I stepped out into the night. Cool air, empty sky. My breath fogged on the glass as I passed the front doors one last time. The sign out front still said, founded by Gregory Halden. Not built by, that's fine. Because the foundation always remembers who laid the bricks, even when the family forgets. Behind me, the servers kept humming. Alive, whole, but counting down. They called it the New Era Breakfast, because of course they did. Glossy pamphlets, branded pastries, 3 interns sprinting around with clipboards like the fate of Western civilization, hinged on how many blueberry muffins were arranged in the shape of the new logo. The rebrand was unveiled at 8:01 a.m. sharp. Halden Tech was now Kendra, just Kendra. No last name, no descriptor. Just her name floating in soft blush serif font over a peach gradient like a startup trying to sell biodegradable vibrators. She took the stage in a cream blazer that probably cost more than my first car. We're not just updating software, she beamed. We're updating identity. Platform 9 will be leaner, bolder, smarter. I believe in where we're going, and I believe in all of you. All of them. Not a damn word about the person who built Platform 1 through 8. The person who architected the APIs, deployed the load balancers manually the night AWS glitched, negotiated the first HiPI compliance packet, with the healthcare giant sitting quietly at the back of the room now, watching, always watching. Next to her, the CTO looked like he hadn't slept. Bags under his eyes, tie slightly crooked. He leaned toward her just before the Q&A and whispered something. She waved him off like a fly. Back-end's been weird since the handoff. He mumbled later to someone from finance. Define weird, they asked. Permissions weird. Stuff grayed out. We lost one of the test mirrors this morning. Did you file a ticket? Filed 6. No response. Jenkins locked me out. Jenkins locking out the CTO should have set off sirens. Instead, someone handed him a mini quiche. The client arrived at 9:12 sharp. Their team took up half the front row, 4 execs in pressed suits, and the VP who'd once told me, "Your platform is the only thing that makes our data pipeline not vomit on itself." Kendra opened her mouth and did what she always does: oversell with confidence and pray the structure beneath her holds. We're offering full integration with third-party wearable data, real-time vitals. We're even exploring biometric-triggered auto-authorization for physicians. It's going to be a whole new Kendra. The healthcare lead blinked. But your documentation doesn't mention a finalized bridge for that. Oh, it's being implemented now. My team's on it. Except her team wasn't, because her team didn't know that half the access tree had been silently pruned at midnight. Meanwhile, deep in the Slack void, an intern with a minor caffeine addiction and zero seniority typed, "Does anyone know where the root access script went?" Pause. It was in admin tools last week, but now it's just gone? No one answered. They were too busy handing out mimosas and high-fiving over the new color scheme. Down in DevOps, someone noticed a background sync job return a 403 error, then another. Then a failure cascade marked unrecognized cert. But the logs were buried 3 folders deep and auto-archived every 10 minutes. No alerts went up, no red flags, just soft, silent decay, bit by bit, function by function. The interns kept smiling, the investors kept clapping, and somewhere beneath it all, the company's foundation had started to crack. Not loudly, not dramatically, just invisibly. 11:47 a.m. The CTO sprints down the hallway like he's chasing a heart attack. He doesn't even bother swiping his badge at the server room, just jams it against the reader again and again until the light blinks red, then dead. He tries the override. Access denied. Tries the backup code. Locked out. He stands there, chest heaving, eyes flicking toward the security cam in the corner, like maybe someone's playing a joke. Maybe this is some post-rebrand stress test, but deep down, he knows. This isn't a drill. This is the floor giving out. Upstairs, the dev team tries to push a minor patch, nothing flashy, just a quick bug fix before the renewal team demo hits production. The lead engineer stares at her terminal when Git returns a 2-word message that shouldn't even be possible in a private repo. Repository not found. She reruns the push. Same result. Tries a fetch, a clone, a history pull. Everything comes back empty. It's like the repo never existed. Then her CI tool pings an error. Auth token revoked. Access scope undefined. Meanwhile, in the conference room, Kendra is still mid-smirk, pitching Platform 9 like it's a miracle cure for clinical inefficiency. She's name-dropping wearable integrations and AI-driven treatment suggestions like she even knows what half those words mean. The client execs nod, but slower now. Their faces are starting to tighten. Then the screens freeze. First the preview dashboard, then the live demo, then the fallback UI that was supposed to kick in if anything upstream failed. All of it. Blank. Spinning circles. Error 503. Someone tries to switch to backup mode. The login screen won't even load. The healthcare client leans toward one of her analysts. Quiet murmur. Then she looks up and says, "Can we pause for a moment?" Kendra fumbles. We're just doing some light deployments this morning. Growing pains." Legal dials her cell during the pause. She answers on speaker like a TED Talk Q&A. "Kendra, we've just reviewed the original architecture files. Quick question. Have you reviewed the licensing structure from your brother's tenure?" She rolls her eyes. "No. Why would I? He worked for us." The voice on the other end goes quiet. Then, "No. His LLC did. Kendra, he didn't license the code to Halden Tech. He licensed it to your father's holding company under a revocable operating agreement. The license is bound to ownership structure. When control transferred..." She waves at the screen, annoyed. "Just fix it. Call IT." "Kendra, there is no IT. Not for this. You don't own the system. You never did. You're running your presentation on infrastructure you no longer legally or technically control." For the first time since brunch, she stops talking. Down in DevOps, chaos is blooming. Monitoring dashboards are throwing null returns. Audit trails aren't updating. One of the engineers whispers, "It's like it's all still there, but behind glass, we can see it. We just can't touch it." In a forgotten corner of Slack, the intern posts again. "Guys, Jenkins just deleted itself?" No one answers. The illusion of control is gone, not broken, just vaporized. And now the CTO is red faced, hands trembling, pacing outside the locked server room with his phone to his ear. We need a war room. Now. The door burst open like a shotgun blast. Mid sentence, mid smile, mid slide about future proofed interoperability. And there he was, James, our CTO, pale as drywall, soaked in a panic sweat that soaked through his dress shirt. Not knocking, not apologizing, just standing there with a trembling tablet clutched in both hands like it was bleeding. Everyone stopped, even Kendra. Her rehearsed dazzle cracked for the first time. He walked straight to the front of the room, stepped between her and the screen, and said it like a man dragging his own body to confession. It's gone. Blank stares. The entire codebase. It's gone. Not corrupted, not compromised. Gone. Murmurs sparked in the corners. Someone from DevOps had slipped into the back, wide-eyed, lips pressed tight, nodding slowly like she was trying not to scream. Kendra scoffed, already bristling. No, it's not. We were in Jenkins, just... James held up the tablet, turned the screen. Lines of system logs, red text, access revocations, license failures, legal denials. Detached, he said again. Legally, technically, completely. We don't own it. We don't even touch it. Every node is now locked behind escrow protocols tied to your brother's LLC. Kendra blinked. You're telling me he... What? Took it? No, James said, voice like gravel. He never gave it to us in the first place. You could hear the air evacuate from lungs around the room, chairs shifting. Someone's water glass tipped off the table and hit the floor with a dull thud. The lead investor leaned forward slowly. His jaw hung open just slightly, but his eyes were locked on the screen, on the red, on the decay. You're telling me, he said flatly, that this entire presentation is built on vaporware? James didn't answer. He didn't have to. The healthcare client stood, slow, dignified, cold. Her team followed without a word. We'll be in touch, she said, eyes never leaving Kendra's face. Then they walked out. No handshake, no folder left behind, just the hollow clack of shoes against tile and the weight of $90 million vanishing into the air like smoke. Silence took the room in its jaws. Dad, Gregory Halden, the visionary, the founder, the man who once told me, someday this will all be yours, looked across the boardroom to the far wall, my chair, empty, still pulled slightly out like I'd just stepped away. His lips barely moved, but I saw them. Please tell me I didn't sign the company over to the one child who can't fix this. Kendra said nothing. Her hands were still frozen in that half gesture she'd been making when the crash landed. She looked like a statue mid-erase. Then came the scramble. Calls flew out. Legal, IT, procurement, external counsel, and eventually, him, my father. His hand shook as he pulled out his phone, dialed a number I knew by heart. It rang and went to voicemail. Hi, you've reached... He ended the call before it finished. Tried again, then texted. Just one line. Please, we need you. I never replied. They tore through the legal archives like a bomb squad disarming a device they already knew had gone off. Contracts flew across desks. Paralegals shouted clause numbers like lifeboat assignments. Someone knocked over the executive espresso machine, but no one even blinked. They were looking for a miracle. Instead, they found an envelope. Black seal. No label. Just the words written in my handwriting from a decade ago. To be opened in the event of system compromise. Elaine, head of legal, sliced it open with a letter opener shaped like a dagger. Ironic, considering the blade was already buried. Inside, one sheet of paper, no preamble, no legalese padding, just a single, devastating clause copied from the original 2013 IP licensing contract. Clause 14A, Section 3. All critical platform modules, proprietary logic structures, and licensing scaffolds were deployed via Halden Dynamics LLC under a revocable software agreement. License remains valid only under original control structure. Any majority control transfer, internal or external, voids the license effective immediately. Elaine dropped the page like it bit her. The room went quiet in that heavy way right before an elevator drops. Kendra stared at the claws, mouthing the words without sound. Wait, so he owns the code? No, Elaine whispered, breath catching. He doesn't own it. He is it. He built the licensing logic into the infrastructure. Even the backups are gated. The triggers were bound to control metadata. You didn't lose the code, you lost the keys. What if we restore the old ownership structure? Kendra shot back, eyes darting. What if we put him back in? It's too late, Elaine said. The revocation already triggered. It's not just in contracts. It's coded, licensed, escrowed through a private vault. This wasn't a spite clause. It was a failsafe. James, the CTO, looked like he wanted to melt into the carpet. Even the shadow backups, cold storage, dev mirrors, sandbox servers, all route through the same license tree. It's all mapped to his private keychain, and we can't replicate it. He was the only one who ever touched the deployment kernel. A silence stretched across the room like someone vacuumed out the oxygen. Dad sat at the end of the table, hunched, his hands shaking against the surface, a man staring at the ruins of his own hubris. He picked up his phone again, called me straight to voicemail. He called again. Nothing. Then he recorded one, slow and hoarse. Sweetheart, I didn't know. I should have never... Breath. I'm sorry. Please, call me. I'll fix this. Just... please. He stared at the phone like it owed him mercy. It didn't ring back. And across the company, lights began to go dim. Dashboards blanked. Client calls went unanswered. The support team was instructed to say, "We're investigating intermittent issues," while silently watching everything slip further into lockdown. The system hadn't crashed. It hadn't been hacked. It had simply stopped sharing. No alerts, no smoke, no fire, just silence. And now, that silence was worth more than anything in the building, because it had teeth. And I wasn't picking up. The office I rented smelled like drywall and cheap ambition. Shared space in a converted warehouse, half-exposed brick, Wi-Fi that didn't suck, and a door that locked. That's all I needed. No corner suite, no nameplate, no Herman Miller throne, just quiet and control. I set the laptop down on the scratched particle board desk, booted it, and waited. Not nervously. Not like they were waiting back at Halden Tech. Sorry, Kendra. I waited like someone who already knew what she'd see. Login prompt. Biometric ping. Encrypted handshake. Then it opened. The system bloomed across the screen like it had never left me. Platform, modules, data scaffolds, everything intact. No corruption, no latency, no cries for help from underqualified devs who thought Python was a kind of snake. There it was. Clean, stable, responsive. Mine. No one at the company had even realized I'd maintained a private mirror on a hardened partition with a contingency fork. You know, just in case the visionary daughter of Gregory Halden decided she wanted to run a $90 million operation on Canva templates and pure audacity. I pinged the health check logs. Every node blinked green. Then my inbox chimed. It was subtle. Just a little badge in the corner. But the subject line said everything. Heard you're independent now. Interested in hosting something bigger? No signature. Just a domain tied to one of our competitors, one who'd tried to license our stack before and got politely told to take a number. They weren't being polite anymore. Meanwhile, back at HQ, they were unraveling. The board had convened an emergency vote, because that's what you do when the lifeblood of your company has legally ghosted you. 3 members voted for immediate reinstatement of original architectural leadership authority. 2 abstained. Kendra voted no, naturally, still too proud to admit the ship was sinking because she drilled through the hull herself. And Gregory Halden, the man who gave me his last name but not the benefit of a damn conversation, stared at the screen and said, "I abstain." Of course he did. He couldn't bring himself to admit he chose the wrong child. Couldn't bring himself to say her name wasn't the company, that it never had been. But I was there, watching, quietly. A burner Zoom link routed through a throwaway proxy. They didn't even know I was logged in. Just another anonymous dot in the gallery view. Elaine from legal looked straight into the camera like she knew. "Motion passes," she said, voice taut. "We'll submit a new proposal. Reinstatement terms to follow." I closed the laptop. Didn't smile, didn't scream. Just exhaled. Back at Kendra's empire of branded pastries and buzzwords, the lights were flickering, the dashboards were bones, the clients were circling, and I hadn't lifted a single finger. All I'd done was walk away. Turns out, silence has a price, and they were about to pay it. They held the emergency session in the boardroom, same one where Dad signed the company away like a party favor. But this time, the energy was different. No champagne, no speeches, just investors staring down balance sheets bleeding red, and the platform at the heart of it pulsing a single word across every dashboard: unlicensed. The lead investor, Mallory Strauss, a woman who didn't care about bloodlines or branding, only stability, spoke first. Here's the offer: conditional restructure. The platform doesn't come back online until it's licensed under the original owner, permanently, no wiggle room. Kendra opened her mouth. Mallory didn't even look at her. You're not part of this conversation. As of now, executive authority is suspended pending performance review. Kendra blinked like someone just slapped her with a legal pad. Her father tried to cut in. She's still family. Mallory turned to him. So is the person who built your entire company and quietly walked away with its spine. Family doesn't mean qualified, Gregory. That shut him up. Later that afternoon, he called me again. This time, he left a voicemail I actually listened to. His voice cracked more than I expected. I was wrong. About everything. About you. Just come back. We'll put you in charge. Make it yours. Like it always should have been. I didn't call back. I sent an email. Subject: MSA proposal, licensing terms attachment, 1 PDF, 3 pages, clearly written, no legal fluff. Just numbers, boundaries, terms, and on line 3, bolded for clarity. This time, my name stays on the masthead, and you never call her the best again. I heard Kendra screamed when she read it. Something about betrayal, about legacy, about how I was taking what was hers. Funny. I heard the same thing when she took it from me. The difference is, I built the damn thing. Mallory signed within the hour. Elaine called to confirm. They'll wire the licensing fee in 2 tranches. Your LLC gets full platform control. Client accounts route through your new backend. And Kendra, well, she's been advised to take some time. I nodded. One more thing. Name it. You rebrand again. Agreed. Nowhere in the new system would it say Kendra anymore. The company would survive. The platform would relaunch. But the wound? That was permanent. They had handed me nothing, and now they were licensing everything. No rage, just terms. The lights came back online at 7:03 a.m. on a Tuesday. No countdown, no grand announcement. Just a quiet system heartbeat returning after 7 days of silence. One by one, dashboards lit up. API bridges reconnected. Clients received alerts titled simply, Platform reinstated, now operating under Refract Systems, LLC. No mention of Halden Tech. No trace of Kendra's name. At 7:06 a.m., the healthcare giant's procurement director signed the renewal contract. Not with them, but with me. Refract Systems now handled all critical integrations. My terms, my support pipeline, my architecture, no back channels, no contingency clauses. Just clean code and a price tag they were happy to meet, because now they knew what it looked like when I wasn't around. The contract came with one stipulation. All support would be routed through the new CTO. I'd already chosen him. Janice Cho. She was an intern once. The one who stayed late fixing a broken OAuth loop while Kendra was busy uploading latte selfies. Janice understood the bones of the system because she'd sat beside me when we built them. She walked into her new office that morning with a key card, a full-stack team, and zero tolerance for legacy ego. James, the old CTO, submitted his resignation at 8:24 a.m. No fanfare, no exit memo. Just a single-line email. I'll let smarter people take it from here. I didn't need to reply. He was right. The new site went live by noon. Refract.systems clean interface, lean language. The footer carried just one sentence in gray text. Built for stability by those who remember the silence. The calls from HQ slowed. The investor board stabilized. No one said it out loud, but everyone knew. Kendra wasn't coming back. Not to the chair, not to the meetings, not to anything that mattered. And my father? He didn't call again. But I know what happened. He sat alone in his office, the same room where he signed the company over with a smile and a lie, the original boardroom minutes still on his desk, Signature page marked with his ink and my silence. I imagine he reread it slowly, finger tracing his own handwriting, eyes lingering on the title. Transfer of authority, executive control to Kendra Halden. And that final clause, initialed by him without reading, contingent software license terms excluded from corporate scope. His face must have cracked then, not from anger, but from understanding that the system he'd built his name on was never his. And the child he called Best? She hadn't even known how to log out properly. The last line I hope echoed in his office was the one he never expected to hear again. Turns out, your best child was the one who built the system you just gave away.